I still remember the sound of the folding chairs scraping against the gym floor. That dry, hollow screech that echoes too loudly, like the room itself is uncomfortable with what's about to happen. I arrived early. I always arrive early. That habit didn't come from punctuality, it came from fear. Fear of missing something important. Fear of being overlooked. Fear that if I wasn't there first, there wouldn't be room for me at all. The high school gym had been transformed for graduation. Blue and silver banners hung from the rafters. Rows of metal chairs filled the floor, each one aligned perfectly, as if order could be imposed on something as emotional as this. I clutched my program with both hands. My daughter's name was printed near the back. Claire Matthews, valedictorian. I traced the letters with my thumb like they might disappear if I didn't. I raised Claire alone. That sentence looks simple on paper, but it holds decades inside it. Her father left when she was 6. Not dramatically. No shouting, no slammed doors. He just packed a duffel bag one afternoon and said he needed space. That space eventually stretched into another city, another life, and then silence. I learned quickly that children don't understand absence the way adults do. They personalize it. Claire spent years thinking she must have done something wrong, so I overcompensated. I became 2 parents in one body. I worked mornings at a dental office and evenings at a grocery store. I learned how to fix leaking faucets from YouTube. I taught myself how to braid hair, balance budgets, and sit through parent-teacher conferences pretending I wasn't exhausted. I showed up. Every recital. Every science fair. Every night she woke up crying from a nightmare. When she got sick, I slept sitting up so she could breathe easier on my chest. When she failed her first math test, I failed with her, staying up late relearning algebra just so I could explain it without making her feel stupid. I didn't think of it as sacrifice. It was just motherhood. Claire was brilliant. Quietly brilliant. The kind of child teachers pulled me aside to talk about in hushed, reverent tones. She's special, they'd say. You're doing something right. I never corrected them, because the truth was, most days I had no idea what I was doing. I was just refusing to quit. The ceremony hadn't started yet. Families filtered in slowly, filling rows with camera bags, flowers, and nervous energy. I sat alone, halfway back, aisle seat. A few rows ahead of me, I saw them. My ex-husband. And his wife, Linda. They looked comfortable. The kind of comfortable that comes from never having to earn your place. Linda wore a pale blue dress and held a bouquet wrapped in tissue paper. She leaned into my ex-husband as if they'd rehearsed the pose. I told myself to stay calm. They had a right to be there. So did I. Claire met Linda during her sophomore year of college. By then, her father had reappeared, older, softer, financially stable in ways he'd never been when we were together. Linda was warm, polished. The type of woman who sends handwritten thank you notes and knows how to host dinner parties without breaking a sweat. At first, I was relieved. Someone else caring about my daughter didn't feel like a threat. It felt like help. But slowly, subtly, things shifted. Claire started mentioning Linda more. Linda thinks I should apply to law school. Linda helped me pick this internship outfit. Linda says I shouldn't stress so much. Linda became an authority. I became background. Guests, please take your seats. The announcement snapped me back to the present. The graduates filed in, blue caps bobbing as they marched to their places. Parents stood, cheered, cried. I stood too, when Claire walked in. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did, and didn't register it. I sat back down. The ceremony unfolded as expected. Speeches about perseverance. Applause at the right moments. Phones raised like shields against missing anything. Then the principal stepped aside. And now, he said, Our valedictorian. My heart pounded. This was it. Claire stepped up to the podium with confidence that took my breath away. She looked older than I remembered. Not older in years, older in certainty. She began speaking. She talked about long nights studying, about imposter syndrome, about finding her voice. I smiled. I recognized those words. I'd heard them before. Then she paused. I wouldn't be standing here today, she said, voice steady, without the woman who taught me resilience, strength, and what it means to believe in yourself. My hands tightened around the program. She turned her head slightly. Linda, she said, smiling, you stepped into my life when I needed stability and guidance the most. You showed me what unconditional support looks like. The room erupted in applause. Linda pressed her hand to her chest, tears already falling. My ex-husband stood, clapping proudly. I stayed seated, because in that moment, something inside me went very quiet. Not anger, not heartbreak, recognition. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a revision. I didn't cry. I didn't storm out. I sat perfectly still while my life's work was credited to someone else. I stayed until the end. Smiled for pictures I wasn't included in. Congratulated Claire like nothing had happened. Because mothers don't embarrass their children, even when they're being erased. That night, I went home alone. I didn't scroll through social media. I didn't replay the speech. I sat at my kitchen table and stared at the wall until the sun came up. For the first time in decades, I asked myself a question I'd never allowed before. Who am I if I'm not needed? I didn't tell anyone what happened at the graduation. Not my sister. Not my co-workers. Not even the neighbor who brought over a casserole the next day and said, "You must be so proud." I nodded, smiled, said thank you. Pride wasn't the problem. Erasure was. There's a difference between being unappreciated and being rewritten out of your own story. One hurts. The other rearranges your sense of reality. 4 days after the ceremony, I moved through my house like a guest. Opening cabinets I'd stocked for decades. Sitting on furniture I'd paid off years ago. Everything felt borrowed. Claire didn't call. That wasn't unusual anymore, but it landed differently now. Like confirmation instead of coincidence. The photos appeared online 2 days later. Graduation gowns. Champagne flutes. Smiles stretched wide for the camera. Linda front and center in almost every frame. Her arm around Claire. Her cheek pressed close. Her caption carefully worded. So proud of the incredible woman you've become. Honored to have been part of your journey. Hundreds of likes. Comments poured in. You must be such an inspiration to her. What a beautiful bond. Lucky girl to have you. I scrolled once. Then I closed the app and didn't open it again for weeks. The silence that followed was worse than the speech itself. At least the speech had witnesses. This was private, unnoticed. I woke up each morning expecting grief to hit me like a wave. It didn't. What came instead was emptiness, thin, quiet, persistent. I still went to work, still paid bills, still nodded at neighbors. But the part of me that anticipated, that leaned forward into life, had gone still. I stopped planning. No more, next time Claire visits. No more, for when she needs me. I didn't announce it. I just withdrew. 3 weeks after graduation, Claire texted. Hey Mom. Sorry I've been so busy. Can we talk later? Later came and went. No call. The next day, another message. Jenna and I are thinking of visiting next month. Would love to stay with you if that's okay. Jenna. Her girlfriend. I stared at the message longer than necessary. Old me would have replied immediately, enthusiastically, asked what dates, planned meals. This time, I waited. Then I typed, "I'd love to see you. Let me know dates and I'll see what works." Neutral. Measured. Different. The 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. She didn't respond. I began noticing things about myself I'd ignored for years. How tired my hands were. How quiet the house felt without purpose. How many decisions I'd made automatically, without asking if they still served me. Motherhood had been my spine. Without it actively needed, I had to learn how to stand differently. So I did something reckless. I signed up for a writing class. Community college. Tuesdays and Thursdays. 6 to 9 p.m. The description said, personal narrative and truth-telling. I laughed when I read it. Truth-telling. I wasn't sure I remembered how. The first night, I almost didn't go. I stood in my kitchen at 5:30 p.m. staring at my reflection in the microwave door, wondering who I thought I was fooling. But then I remembered how Claire used to look at me before big moments. Nervous, hopeful. I grabbed my keys. The classroom smelled like dry erase markers and old carpet. There were 12 of us. Mostly women. Mostly middle-aged. A few younger students who looked like they'd wandered in by accident. The instructor was a woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. She didn't ask us why we were there. She asked, "What story are you tired of telling?" No one answered. Then she said something that lodged itself in my chest. "Write the version that costs you invitations." That night, I went home and wrote until my fingers cramped. I wrote about the night Claire was born. About sitting alone in a hospital room while her father slept at home. About learning how to be enough for 2 people. I wrote about graduation. I didn't use names. I didn't soften anything. When I finished, I cried, not because I was sad, but because the truth had finally landed somewhere solid. Claire didn't notice my absence at first. That's the thing about being reliable. People don't see you until you stop. When I didn't comment on her posts, she didn't say anything. When I didn't text reminders or check in, she assumed I was busy. It took 2 months before she called. Her tone was light, almost annoyed. "Did I do something?" she asked. I considered lying, but I was tired of disappearing quietly. "Yes," I said, "but not recently." She laughed nervously. "What does that mean?" "It means this didn't start at graduation," I replied. "That was just when I realized it." Silence. Then, "You're being vague." "I'm being careful," I said. "There's a difference." We met for coffee a week later. Neutral territory. Public. Safe. She arrived late. Sat down across from me. Checked her phone. "You've been distant," she said finally. "I've been quiet," I corrected. "You're the one who stopped listening." Her jaw tightened. "That's not fair." "No," I agreed. "It's accurate." She sighed. Looked away. "Linda has just been really supportive." "I know," I said. "She's there for me." "I know." "And you?" She stopped herself. "And me what?" I asked. She didn't answer, because saying it out loud would make it real. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said finally. "I believe you," I replied. That surprised her. "Then why are you acting like this?" "Because intent doesn't erase impact," I said calmly. "And I can't keep shrinking to stay included." Her eyes filled with tears. "Are you jealous?" The word hung between us. "No," I said. "I'm tired." She left early. Said she had errands. I stayed and finished my coffee alone. That night, I didn't replay the conversation. I didn't draft imaginary arguments. I went to my writing class and read a piece out loud for the first time. When I finished, the room was silent. Then the instructor nodded. That, she said, is what happens when you stop apologizing for existing. A month later, an email arrived. From a graduate admissions office. Claire had applied to a competitive program, one that required detailed financial history and references. They were verifying scholarship funding. One scholarship, in particular, listed as Family-Sponsored Educational Support, 2014 to 2018. They needed confirmation. I stared at the screen. That scholarship was mine. My savings. My overtime. My quiet sacrifice. No Linda. No father. Just me. I replied professionally. Dates. Amounts. Documentation. No commentary. No emotion. Just truth. Claire called that evening. She didn't say hello. They contacted me, she said, about the scholarship. Yes, I replied. They didn't know Linda. No, I said. Why would they? Silence. Then, smaller, I guess I never thought about it like that. That, I said gently, is the problem. She didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She cried. Not dramatically. Honestly. I don't know when I stopped seeing you, she whispered. I closed my eyes. Neither do I said. But I noticed when I disappeared. Claire didn't come over that night. She said she needed time. I told her I understood. And I meant it. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of what would happen if she pulled away. That realization startled me more than the distance itself. Something subtle had shifted after that phone call. Not between us, within me. I wasn't bracing anymore. I wasn't rehearsing conversations in my head or scanning my phone for signs of repair. I'd spent so many years emotionally leaning forward that I didn't realize how much energy it took. Now I leaned back. And the world didn't collapse. The writing class ended in late summer. On the final night, our instructor asked if anyone wanted to submit their work to a regional literary journal. I almost didn't raise my hand. Then I thought about everything I'd swallowed over the years. All the versions of myself that had gone undocumented because they were inconvenient. I submitted the piece. I didn't tell Claire. I didn't tell anyone. Some things don't need witnesses to be real. Claire called again 2 weeks later. Her voice sounded different. Quieter. Less certain. Can I come by? She asked. Just me. Yes, I said. She arrived without Jenna. Without Linda. Without armor. She sat on the same couch she'd grown up on, knees pulled to her chest like she used to when she was little. I reread my speech, she said suddenly. I waited. I don't recognize myself in it, she continued. It sounds like someone who wanted to be approved of. I nodded. That happens, I said. She swallowed. I think I was trying to prove something. To who? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Then, to myself. She cried then. Not because I prompted her. Not because I accused her. Because she'd finally connected the dots. I didn't lose you all at once, she said. I traded you in pieces. The words were brutal. Accurate. I let someone else tell a cleaner story, she continued. One that didn't include exhaustion or sacrifice or guilt. I stayed quiet. This wasn't my moment to rescue her. This was hers to face. I don't want to replace Linda, she said quickly. She didn't do anything wrong. I know, I replied. That surprised her. I don't need you to choose, I added. I need you to stop pretending there was a vacancy. She looked at me then, really looked. And for the first time in years, I saw recognition instead of familiarity. The journal acceptance email came the next morning. Subject line, "We'd like to publish your essay." I read it twice, then a third time. I didn't cry. I smiled, the kind of smile that settles instead of bursts. The essay was scheduled for publication in October. The editor suggested a small reading event at the library. I said yes before doubt could intervene. Claire found out by accident. She was scrolling through local events and sent me a screenshot. "Is this you?" "Yes," I replied. She called immediately. "You wrote about me?" "I wrote about motherhood," I said. "If you saw yourself in it, that's yours to process." She was quiet. Then, "I'm proud of you." The words landed softly. They didn't fix anything. They didn't need to. The reading night was small. 30 people. Folding chairs. Cheap wine. I read my piece without shaking. I didn't look for Claire in the audience, but she was there. So was Linda. I hadn't known she'd come until I saw her near the back. She didn't avoid my eyes. She didn't smile either. She just listened. That mattered more than an apology. Afterward, Linda approached me. She didn't hug me. She didn't explain herself. She said only this. I didn't realize the space I was standing in. I nodded. "Most people don't," I said, and that was enough. Claire didn't suddenly become different. She didn't overcorrect or cling or perform remorse. What changed was consistency. She called when she said she would. She asked instead of assuming. She introduced me, plainly, confidently, as her mother. Not also. Not biological. Not first. Just mother. At her graduate school orientation, she walked over to me before anyone else. "This is my mom," she told her classmates. "She raised me." No speech. No applause. Just truth. We are not the same as we were before. And that's good. We don't pretend the past didn't happen. We don't compete for emotional territory. I don't disappear. She doesn't rewrite. Here's the thing people don't tell you about motherhood. You can do everything right and still be sidelined. You can give your best years and still be edited out. But if you stay honest, if you refuse to trade your dignity for proximity, the truth finds its way back. Quietly. Without drama. Without begging. I don't need to be centered in every story anymore. I just refuse to be erased. And that, finally, feels like enough.